G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the American Premium A6M2 Zero. So, first things first, I am still a little croaky, so my apologies for my voice, but once again, we're just going to push through. Now, recently I've noticed a trend amongst Japanese teams. I've seen quite a number of pilots, a very large percentage actually, flying out the Premium F4U Corsair. Now initially I thought this was just because it had a premium bonus and they were just grinding their way through. However, when you look at the US side, very few people seem to fly out the Zero. Now in my opinion, the Zero is one of the best aircraft for its battle rating in the game, and I have a large number of videos on the A6M2 and the Mod 11 on my channel to demonstrate why I think that's the case. And today I'm going to show you that again, but this time I'm going to show it from a completely different angle. Flying out the US Zero, and I'm going to fly against a Japanese Zero. Now, where most of my previous battles show an entire battle from start to finish, for this one I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show a single engagement in a battle. Just me and a Zero. And I'm going to pause the initial battle at points and explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it as the battle is progressing. Once we've gotten to the conclusion of the engagement, I'm then going to restart the entire battle a second time and show you the entire battle unedited without any commentary, running from start to finish. And I'm hoping this video will show you not only how capable the Zero is as a fighter, and how capable it is of turning the tides on an opponent that starts with a technical advantage, but how quickly it's able to do that against an opponent that has exactly the same capabilities. So let us begin. We've managed to take off from the carrier, we've climbed our way out to 12,700 feet, and we've just made it to our first target. Now we can see we've got an A6M2, it's just under 5 kilometers away at this time, it is closing in our direction. Judging from its angle above the horizon, I would say we're looking at about 14,500 feet on this particular Zero. Could be around 15,000 feet, but I reckon the former is more likely. Now that does mean it's got an energy advantage, but that's fine, that's not a problem. What I'm more concerned about at the moment is I only detected this aircraft as I first cleared the clouds, so I need to make sure it's alone before I begin the engagement, which is why I'm beginning this left-hand bank. Now I don't dive or turn directly away from the aircraft as I want this plane to close distance on me, but I want to make sure it turns away from the island on the other side of the map, which is where most of the enemy team is likely to be massing. It tends to be where Japanese fighters go most of the time. I want to make sure I drag him as much as I can off to the side, but I do want him to close in because I can't kill him while he's all the way over there. Now at this point the altitude difference really starts to show. At only 2 kilometers range, and as I'm closing in on 14,000 feet myself, the A6M2 is floating around the vicinity of 16,000 feet. Now that's a 2,000 foot altitude advantage on my current. Now again, I'm not concerned about this altitude advantage, but it is always good to know exactly how much of an advantage there is when facing an opponent. Now at this point I'm also watching the range to target very closely. Diving in from that altitude, he is going to be accelerating very quickly. As you can see, my IAS is only at 283 kilometers an hour. In a Zero, that gives me incredible maneuvering capability. It maneuvers best at around 300. However, the enemy is going to be coming in at about 500, if not over 500 kilometers an hour. I need to know that closing distance and monitor it closely and know how long it's going to take me to complete a turn while he is diving in. The idea here is by the point he has managed to get to my location, I want to have done a 180 and be cutting in directly underneath him. Now at his rate of closure, I'm guessing I'm going to need at least 1.3 kilometers to make the turn. So I'm waiting for that number to pop up, and then I throw the aircraft into a descending half corkscrew. Now at this point I'm testing the mettle of the pilot. If he goes vertical and goes back for altitude, then I'm facing an incredibly skilled pilot who's already seen the bait in the trap. However, as we can see here, instead he rolled over his Mod 11 and put it into a dive. Now what this means to me is this is a pilot that had a massive energy advantage on me in the first place, who had absolutely no reason to surrender that advantage. While you don't think of a Mod 11 as being a boom and zoom aircraft, it can most certainly be flown that way. However, by descending, the pilot has chosen to fully engage me in what I am obviously baiting as a turning battle. Now, that turning battle is going to require him to surrender that energy advantage before he ever actually has a chance to fully utilize it. However, he hasn't surrendered that energy advantage yet, and this is something that I need to capitalize on. This plane is still, even though it's turning at the moment, as you can see, in a higher energy state than mine, which is why it's constantly able to pull these big, wide loops. but it's also precisely why these loops are so wide. He has so much speed on, he can't turn back hard enough to make it in with my tight closing maneuvers. This allows me to pitch and roll very quickly, constantly tracking his location, constantly spiraling around, slowly closing the gap until this point. This is the point of the overshoot. While the Mod 11 may have been fully committed to the battle at this point, for me, this is the point the actual battle starts. Everything before this point was simply jockeying for position and getting myself ready to begin the fight. Now, what I mean by that is at no point before this moment in the battle was I attempting to get a firing solution on the Mod 11. At this point, however, I'm going to start. Now, this doesn't look like much of an overshoot. I'm in a dive, the Mod 11 is in a climb. However, he has already bled off a lot of his speed trying to get to this point. Putting himself in the vertical is going to slow him down. I, however, am already maintaining about the same speed as he is. I'm going to be able to reverse this dive, carry a larger amount of energy, and come in underneath him at the moment that he is running out of energy and starting to approach a stall. So bring the nose up sharply, and I'm looking closely at his direction of travel, put the guns in the way, and there is my first hit. The first time I fire the guns, and we've already smoked his engine. Now this moment has less to do with the fight and more, well, this is more just a sub-note for anybody watching. If you see a really good engagement happening between one of your teammates and a member of the enemy team, and that teammate doesn't look like he's in serious trouble or doesn't look like he needs your help, don't get involved. Really good engagements are few and far between in War Thunder. When somebody's actually having one, don't screw it up for them, just sit back and watch the show. So anyways, back to the fight. Now at this point, well, would the Mod 11 have dove away if it wasn't for the interruption of the P-39 dropping in? I don't know, but that's exactly what he's done. Now I put a shot down here. Now my first objective with that shot was obviously to try and hit him, but it was also to remind him that I'm there, even if it didn't hit. I want him to keep running. I want him to max speed his aircraft. You'll notice I've got the engines pulled all the way back to zero, and I'm doing a lot of wild corkscrews in order to control my speed. I want him to max speed his aircraft, as once again it will reduce his maneuverability, which allows me to make a single high G turn, take the lead, and eliminate him. Now of course this turn was so aggressive that I do wind up G-locking the aircraft. However, it's highly likely due to the massive amount of speed that the Mod 11 pilot picked up in that dive, that when he actually threw himself into the bank that I killed him on, he actually G-locked himself making that turn, presenting himself as a target. So, that's my Premium A6M2 Zero versus an A6M2 Mod 11, which I consider to be a slightly superior aircraft that started with an altitude advantage. And that's how I turn the tables. Altitude is very useful. It's very important in a lot of fighters. Well, in truth, in every fighter, regardless of what it is and what it does. But it is very important for a pilot to understand that why that altitude advantage does give you exactly what it says on the box, an advantage in an engagement. It is entirely possible for a skilled pilot in the right aircraft to be able to take that advantage and turn it against you. Now, what would have happened if the Mod 11 pilot had recognized what I was doing and had instead gone back for altitude and turned around and boomed again? Well, I would have done exactly the same thing I was doing. I would have slowly bled his energy out as he continually made attacks until he was again forced into the turning engagement. The difference is he wouldn't have been entering in with so much energy, and it would have been a much tighter dogfight between the two aircraft. But one way or another, I would have used his energy advantage against him to force him into a position where he would either need to disengage from the fight or drop his energy down to my level. But anyways, ladies and gents, let's watch the entire fight again, but this time without interruption. Thank you very much for watching, and again, apologies for my voice. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.